Thank you so much, Mr. Olapelumi. We're moving on to the very final session. That's the speaking session for today. And taking us in that session is Mr. Ola Daniel, who is the founder of PK Global Network from Canada, and he'll be taking us on the topic navigating business and finance management. Navigating business and finance management. Mr. Ola Daniel is a systems thinker and philosopher of success whose work focuses on identity, authority, stewardship, and human capital governance. His research and teaching examine why modern systems these through frameworks that integrate philosophy, economics, leadership, and faith. He reframes success as the capacity to govern outcomes from aligned identity rather than external accumulation or constant toil. His work is increasingly applied in leadership development, organizational strategy, and socio-economic discourse across global and diaspora contexts, where questions of purpose, structure, and long-term value creation are most urgent. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me as we make welcome Mr. Ola Daniel. Mr. Ola Daniel, over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mo, for having me, and thank you for the wonderful introduction. Thank you very much. And to the organizers of this event, thank you for putting this together and having me this. It's afternoon here and it's evening over there. Thank you very much. Yeah, to my brother, bro Peter Sampson, he's quite an age. Thank you for that wonderful insightful sections. Maybe probably after the sections, I guess we need to kind of catch up. Been a very, very long time. And for Samson, Olorun Shola, thank you for that wonderful and insightful section as well. So, Mr. Dayo Oladepupo, if I'm correct. I'm sorry. Thank you very much as well for that insightful section. Thank you very much. God bless every one of us. Yeah, without further ado, let us go straight right to my section. We'll be talking about navigating business and financial management. Navigating business and financial management. But before I actually go forward, I would like to start with a simple truth. You know, in today's world, most people are not confused because there's a lack of information. And if you agree with me, we are living in an age and a generation whereby you can just practically go online and make research about any subject matter of your choice of interest, and are going to get a lot of data. You know, you can actually make use of these new AI tools, the ChatGPT of these words, the DeepSeeks, the Gemini, and the likes, and are going to get a lot of data. So most people are not confused or they don't know how to navigate life, not because there's a lack of information. Can you hear me? Okay,
Very
thank
well,
you.
sir.
You know, most people are not confused because there's a lack of information, but majorly people are confused because the rule of engagement that worked yesterday is no longer working today. What worked yesterday is no longer working today. So that is why most people are practically at the crossroad trying to navigate the new rules, the new protocol of engagement. And I believe we have many people that have the same or similar experience with me growing up, whereby we are indoctrinated with the mindset of going to school, getting a job, building a skill, saving money. And all of this in themselves, they are bad. But the truth is that the rules of engagement to apply this mindset is no longer, it's evolving in this age and in this generation. You know, the technology are not even kind of making things smooth any longer as well. No, it is actually making the processes kind of simple, and the outcome kind of more than before. But the thing is that for you to actually navigate life and probably destiny, maybe in terms of your finance, in terms of your business, in this age and in this generation, you need to start asking yourself the right question. It is no longer how hard should I work. Before now we have the agrarian age, we have the industrial age, but now we are in the digital age. It is no longer how hard should I work. It is about how strategic should I position myself. So in this age and in this generation, strategic positioning supersede hard work. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying we should not work hard. But what I'm saying is that we must be strategic about our positioning. And when it comes to our personal finance and in terms of our business management, we have our three phases of, let me say, three structures of financial management. In terms of personal finance, we have our earning income, we have our controlling your expenses and positioning your capital. But before I go right there, and likewise as well, when it comes to business and management, most business owners and entrepreneurs, I think for the purpose of this call, we have most people that are here. I don't want to use the word of small scale businesses, but let me just say entrepreneurs that are on this call presently. Most of us focus more on generating revenue at the expense of our cash flow management. And if you check statistically, it has been proven many businesses die not because they lack revenue, but most businesses die because there is lack or gross misconduct of cash flow management. Most businesses die not because they are not generating revenue, but most businesses die because there is a gross misconduct of cash flow management. And when we're talking about cash flow, basically what cash flow means is that it is the movement of cash in and out of the business. The movement of cash in and out of the business. Cash flow is the oxygen of every business, just like our blood, that how human cannot succeed, cannot live without blood. That is how cash flow is to every businesses. No business can survive without an effective and healthy cash flow management. And so when we're talking about cash flow management, you need, as a business owner, you must ensure that the cash that is leaving your business is no more than the cash that is coming into your business. Are we still together, please? Just show me an image that we are still flowing together. Oh, thank you very much. As a business owner, the cash that is coming in the business must supersede the cash that is leaving your business if that your business must survive. Especially we are living now in the kind of a volatile business environment. And there's a distinct difference when it comes to revenue. Most cash business or owner always concentrate on, I made 2,000 this week, I made 5,000, I made 10,000 this week. But there are two types of revenue that you must actually take cognizance about. You have the cash revenue and you have your accrued revenue. There's a difference between your cash revenue and your accrued revenue. So you don't mix the two together when it comes to your cash flow management. Because if your business must survive the next 5-10 years, you must be intentionally about designing a system that is actually going to work well with your cash flow management. Every business survives on the cash flow management. So you don't sell, when you talk about accrued cash flow, accrued cash flow is the sales that you have made, but the cash is not in your custody, either cash in hand or cash at bank. Either cash in hand or cash at bank. But the cash sales is the sales you have already made, and the cash of that sales is already in your custody. So those are the things you must track as a business owner, and your cash sales must supersede the amount of your cash sales must supersede the amount of your accrued sales. As a business owner that is just starting or growing, you must not sell on credit more than you are selling on cash basis. You must actually design a pattern that will encourage your customers, your clients, to pay either immediately or before even you make that sales already, before you deliver the sales or you deliver the services.
That is the way you can survive in the business environment. And let me also chip this in very quickly. Even if you are dealing with families and friends, there must be a line of boundaries. There must be a line of boundary that you must actually kind of let them know up front, head on. It's a separate entity. The business is different from the business owner. So you can't, because this is my family member, this is my friends, they are now selling. They must, and it's the discipline has to start with you yourself. If you are buying anything from your business, you need to pay for that product or for that particular services. Because if you are doing it yourself, if you are disciplining yourself to the extent that if you are enjoying any services or any product from your business and you are paying, you will have the audacity to actually collect cash, be it from the family members or from the friends. Because that's if they are not giving you grants or loans, that is the way they can support your business. So as a business owner, you must be intentional about your cash flow management. So you must design a system that allows you to get paid faster than you are paying your supplier. You must design a system that, okay, for example, and I think maybe for people that are just starting, or maybe you're just starting early in the business, you have not developed a lot of social trust, or let me say social capital, that can allow your maybe supplier to give you the goods, to deliver the goods to you on credit. So, but you need to be kind of intentional about developing social capital as well. Because if you actually want to grow in that line of business that you're actually choosing for yourself, you need a lot of social capital. The ability for your supplier to trust you and give you goods ahead before delivery. Because in business, number is an advantage. If you can pull a lot of quantity in sales, then you are going to kind of scale at a very high rate. But if the numbers you are pulling, even while you are still growing, is not that much, the growth will be very difficult. But if you have a lot of social capital that your supplier can trust you and give you goods head on ahead of time before you make the delivery of the payment, it's actually going to be able to scale very. So you need to actually develop integrity. Okay, I'm going to pay social time and you pay social time. Or but even before then, maybe you are only buying, maybe doing small quantities, and this person sees that okay, you are delivering the payment as at when due. That is another way to develop a social capital. And just like my brother Godwin Olomshola said, if you have a mentor in the business that can actually kind of invest his or integrity in you to actually get goods on credit from a supplier, these are the avenues whereby as a small scale entrepreneur, you're just growing or starting, for you to scale high in the business environment. So these are very, very vital for your business growth and your business management processes. And another thing you need to actually understand is that, okay, I've talked about that. You need to separate your cash revenue from your accrued incomes. Also, you need to control the expense payment by timing, not by the amount of expenses you want to pay. You need to control the timing of your expenses as a business owner. Okay, just for example, you are not kind of going to commit yourself to pay a particular or to actually pay off an expenses based on the amount, but based on the timing of the expenses. You need to delay the non-critical expenses of the business till further notice and concentrate your effort on ensuring that you pay the critical expenses of the business, that if you don't pay up this amount at this particular point in time, it can cripple the business. So you need to ensure that it is not about the amount of the expenses you need to pay, but it is about the timing of when you need to pay that expenses. Not all Most business owners focus on how much they spend or how much they are paying, but the smart business owners focus on when they spend. Most business owners focus on how much they need to spend, but the smart ones focus on when they spend, not how much. It does not matter how much or how kind of the amount, the quantity of the expenses you need to pay. But you need to differentiate the timing, the significance of the payment of that expenses. It is actually significant in your cash flow management. Because if you are paying more than the money that is coming in into your business, you're already signing up for liquidation. So you need to be strategic about the payment of expenses as far as your business is concerned as well. And one thing you also need to understand about your cash flow management, you need to build a cash buffer. I think for Nigeria particularly, when this new administration came in and the president made an announcement on the day of his inauguration, and he said, "Oh, okay, my fellow citizens, subsidy is what? Subsidy is gone." You know, that single statement affected a lot of businesses because as a result of that particular statement, there was occurrence of high cost of production in the economy. Prices of goods and services increased sporadically. And as a result of that, it eat a lot of people's capital. Many people did not survive that period because they don't have a lot of cash reserve to actually kind of cushion the effect of the tsunami that happened in that period. So many businesses went into extinction. They couldn't meet up with the customer's expectation any longer because there's no cash at hand to meet the customer's expectations. So as a business owner as well, in terms of your cash flow management, you need to have a cash reserve to meet contingencies expenditures, to meet contingent expenses. You know, we talked about ensuring that you get paid faster than you pay your suppliers. Different distinguishing between your cash income and your accrued income, and also making sure that your cash reserve is solid enough to cushion any kind of economic tsunami that is actually going to happen in the business industry. And lastly, you need to avoid cash traps. What do I mean by cash traps? You don't keep more inventory than is expected. You know, so many business owners do not know when to actually kind of have more inventories and when they need to offset more inventories. If you have more inventories in your store that is expected, you are tying down your capital. You are tying down what? You are tying down your capital. Fine. You need to have a lot or as much as possible inventory to meet your customers' expectations, but you must not surpass the threshold. So you need to understand the business environment you are operating. It is actually critical. You need to understand the business environment you are operating and the kind of your customer base. You can't afford to have more inventory that is expected. You are tying down your cash. You are tying down your capital. And you can't afford to keep selling on credit to people. You are also tying down your capital as well. These are little things that kill business faster. So you need to ensure that you are intentional about designing a framework, a design that actually kind of suits your business to actually help it to function and operate an healthy cash flow process and cash flow management. But recently, I actually want to put bring our attention to something that is actually happening in the global world, present in the global market world. In Switzerland presently, there was a conference that was actually held, and we have the world leaders that were present there, the times of the Prime Minister of Canada, the President of US, of China, and many like that. Something is actually kind of happening in the global market. There is volatility. The high rate of volatility that's happening in the global market is very enormous now, and it's actually not only affecting the business environment, it's even affecting the nation's economy. So many nations now are strategically repositioning themselves for the new economy. So my question to you as a business owner is, how are you strategically repositioning yourself in a business environment that is volatile now than ever before? There's a rapid change in technology, there's a rising cost, there is a lack of capital, there is restrictions in some aspect of access to market. There's a lot of volatility that is happening in the business world. But the truth is that these are not the real problems. The volatility that is happening in the market world, they are not the real problem, because these same problems, some other business owners are facing these same problems, but they are experiencing different outcomes. So if you agree with me, these are not actually the real problem. The volatility is not the real problem, but it is the poor repositioning of some business owners are the real problems. When there is, okay, let us take a scenario for an example now. As a business owner that is actually maybe in the hospitality business, maybe you are dealing, okay, maybe in food or in restaurants, and there's increase in cost of production. There's increase in how the amount you get your foodstuffs. Maybe there's increase in energy cost. There's a lot of increment that is actually happening in the business environment, which is actually affecting the cost of your production. So now let me now put it to you as a business owner now, for you to meet up with your margin so that the high cost of production will not actually take effect on your own margin as a business owner. I want to ask you a question. As a business owner, please drop it in the chat box. What is your first approach you are going to do in that kind of a scenario? There's an high cost of production in your business. And for you not to actually affect your margin, when I talk about margin, I'm talking about profit. What is actually going to be your approach? How are you going to react to kind of a business volatility? I want somebody to actually kind of drop that in the comment box. Let me see how you're going to react as a business owner. There's an high cost in your business presently, which is actually affecting, make your cost of production to actually go up than it was before normally. So definitely it's actually going to affect your margin, it's going to affect your profit. So as a business owner, how are you going to approach that kind of a scenario? I'm waiting for somebody to drop that in the comment box, in the comment section. As a business owner, how are you going to approach that kind of a circumstance? What is your first line of action? What are you going to do as a business owner? Fine, there's nothing you can do about the cost, but the only thing you think you can do is to maintain your position for the profits, for you not to affect your own profit. What is the first thing you are going to do as a business owner? I'm not seeing anything in the comment box presently. Am I the one? Am I only talking to myself? Okay, not even as a food, maybe you're not in the food industry now, just okay, your own personal business. There's high cost in the business presently. What is the first thing you're going to do to maintain your customer base and also to maintain your profit? What is the first thing you're going to do as a business owner? Okay, create awareness just so that my customers can be aware of the situation. You will rebrand and increase selling price. Okay, I will look into cutting down all my waste. Okay, brilliant idea. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, somebody said, oh, you will rebrand and increase selling price. Okay. But the thing is that if you actually try to increase your selling price in a business environment that is highly competitive, you stand a chance, a risk of losing customers. If your first line of action is to increase your price in an highly competitive business environment, you stand a risk of losing your customers. Because if they can actually get that particular product from another customers at a cheaper price, okay, I will take my time to do market analysis and solve it. Okay, I will reward repeat customers with discount or priority service. But don't forget, there's already a problem of high cost that you are kind of dealing with presently. So you can't actually afford again to increase your cost because the market already is not friendly. The cost of production is at very high alarming. So you can't afford again to actually increase your cost again. Your intention now is actually to work around the cost so that you can actually have a reasonable profit at the end of the day. So you can't afford to increase the cost. And you can't afford to increase your selling price as well, so as not to lose your customer base. And you can't afford to reduce the quality of the product. You can't afford as well to reduce the quality of the product, because doing so as a business owner, you are going to lose. If your customer found out that the quality of the product has actually been affected and tampered with, you are going to lose trust, and the goodwill of the product of the business is kind of going to nosedive, and at the end of the day, you're going to lose your product, your customer base, you're going to lose revenue and the likes. So as a business owner, you don't react to the market like that. The only thing you need to do is to reposition the strategic approach of your business. What you need to do is to what? You need to actually kind of reposition your business in such a way that you can't control the cost. You don't want to increase the selling price, and you don't also want to reduce the quality of the product, and you still want to have an high margin at the end of the day. So you just need to think outside the box. You don't need to actually kind of put yourself inside the box of the business environment. And one thing I will advise for somebody in that kind of a business environment to do, just reposition your business. And how can you do that? Instead of you actually kind of waiting for customers to come in on a daily basis to come and pick up the product, you go and meet the customers themselves. You change your client base. For instance, now for somebody like the example I actually kind of illustrated, you are in the food business. Instead of waiting for daily patronage, you go to organizations that you know that, okay, they are in your kind of a local environment, they've been seeing around, they trust your brand. You approach them. Every employer, every employee always have a okay. I was being told I have 5 minutes more. Let us quickly run quickly with what we have. Okay, let me just finish with this scenario. You need to actually change your approach. You need to reposition the business. You don't actually focus on the current clients you have. You need to actually go and look for a new client that can actually make the business to survive in that kind of business volatility. Like I was saying, look around for organizations in your environment, speak to them, like maybe look at one or two organizations that have a large employee rather. Every employee always have a budget of what they need to spend on a weekly basis. So by so doing, you can just approach them. This is what I'm selling, and this is my proposition, my business proposition. I will supply you food or supply you these so things on a weekly basis at so discounts. Maybe you make your research about what they have been patronizing before. Maybe each employee spend maybe 500 on food on a daily basis, and you're making them to understand that if you are patronizing me on a daily basis, I'll be giving you 300 or 200 discount, or maybe 400, 100 naira discount on the product. By so doing, if you can actually get like 5 people in each company like that, 5 companies, 5 employees in 5 organizations is like 25 companies. But so 25 client base. So what this means is that you are not only waiting for daily sales again, you have already locked in a strategy that is going to be giving a repeated sales income on a weekly basis. And if you can replicate this system across more organizations, you are increasing your client base, you'll be able to do much numbers, and you'll be able to get your raw materials at a very cheap price, because you are not going to be buying in small quantities, you're going to be buying in large quantities. So what happens there is not about the business volatility. What you have actually done is that you have repositioned your business in such a way that can survive what the business volatility. So in such environment, in such business environment, the environment is not the issue. It is poor positioning. And just last, let us quickly just broach to maybe the little time we have left in terms of our financial or personal financial management. I talk about 3 streams of structures you can actually kind of engage in terms of your personal finance management, in terms of your earning income, controlling your expenses, and positioning yourself, your capital, letting your capital work for you. In this kind of age and time we are, you can't just rely on a single stream of income. And even the kind of income, the kind of skills or job you are engaging yourself to produce or to generate income for you is what is actually needed. It is not, in this age and time, as much as passion is actually kind of important, you need to look at what the business environment is needing. You are responding to the need of the business environment, not your passion. A time is coming when you have actually kind of stabilized financially, you cannot venture into your passion. But when you start, you don't start with your passion, you start with the need of the business environment you are functioning. That is how you can generate a lot of income for yourself. And as well, when it's not actually kind of a good alone to master the art of making money, you also need to develop skills of managing your money. Individually or on a personal basis, you can't base your expenses on emotion basis. You can't be an impulsive spender. You have to live on a budget. This is not in an age and time you just, okay, this is what I want to buy, this is what I want to buy. You need to live on a budget. This is how to control your expenses. You need to block every leakages. There are some subscriptions you have presently that you don't have business with those subscriptions. You need to go back and track your expenses. Subscriptions that you know that you are no longer needing, some expenses that you know that they are not actually kind of adding value to your life. You need to cut them off. And lastly, you need to build a financial literacy of how your money can be working for you even while you are sleeping. And the thing is that you cannot grow beyond the level, you cannot grow your money beyond the level of your knowledge. You cannot grow your money beyond the level of your knowledge. You need to seek for financial advisors or professional advice. Some part of the country, they call them financial advisors, some other country, they call them account officers. You need to seek for their advice on how to actually leverage your money to work for you. And because of time, in conclusion, as much as your environment matters, to navigate and build something significant for yourself, strategic positioning is very key in a volatile environment we find ourselves. For your business to survive in a volatile environment we find ourselves, in a world that is evolving much than we are envisaging and expecting, you need to strategically position your business. And as far as your personal finance, you need to build a skill that is actually in demand in the industry that you're actually functioning in. not what you have passion about. Passion is okay, but as far as your income is concerned, generating income is concerned, you need to work within the confinement of what the business environment you are functioning in need, not your passion. But much more than that, you need to build a system of financial literacy to manage your personal finance. Thank you very much for having me. I would have actually loved to still have more to talk about, but because of our time, I'll be calling it a wrap for this session. If you have any question, just drop in the chat box and we'll go from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for that session. Thank you for the insights that you shared. We're truly, truly grateful. Thank you so much, sir.